Hello and welcome to episode 18 of Pixel Sift. It's a podcast that tackles the news and the blues of the video game world. I'm Gianni, and joining me in the studio today is my co-host Scott.
Hello, hello.
And joining us over the magic of the telephone, we have the frequently travelling Mitch.
Yeah, I'm still not in the studio this week. I'll be here in Mandurah, just hanging out on the phone.
He's on site,
really
checking out the Mandurah game scene.
Yep.
Giving us an update on that one. So today's episode is a special one because we have a double-length feature story on a recent global gaming event. Would you like to tell us a little bit about that, Scott?
Yes, I would. You're on the money there, Gianni. This weekend just gone was the Global Game Jam, an event where groups of developers come together to start and finish making a game in just 48 hours. We were fortunate to go to one of two jams being hosted in Perth at ECU's Mount Lawley campus, and you'll hear us chatting to the teams there very shortly.
There's a lot of great content coming out of the Perth Jams. There was not one but two events. One at Murdoch, which is our sort of our spiritual home, and at ECU, where we spend a bit of time on the weekend, as you just mentioned there.
We'll also be talking high-profile game failures from consoles to software and everything in between.
All that and more coming up on today's episode of Pixel Sift.
You're listening to Pixel Sift, or you might be watching Pixel Sift on Twitch. Pixel Sift.
Last weekend, aspiring and professional game designers came together to take part in a worldwide event. It's called the Global Game Jam, and it's a 48-hour gauntlet where artists, coders, musicians, and everyone in between take up the challenge to make a game in just 2 days. 36,000 people take part across the world in 93 different countries, including jammers in Australia. This year, Let's Make Games, the group behind the Perth Games Festival, hosted two jam sites, one at Murdoch University and one at Edith Cowan. We caught up with some of the jammers over the 48 hours and followed their progress over the weekend.
This is Brendan Reagan from Stirfire Studios at Global Game Jam ECU 2016 here in Perth. Yay, Perth! I'm super excited. I'm always super excited for Global Game Jam. The nice thing about game jams is every time we do a game jam, we often are like trying stuff, and we either learn ways not to do stuff, or we explore things that we might want to do later. It's a great excuse to just try a bunch of shit and fail, and if it sticks to the wall, then you can follow it up. Surgeon Simulator is the big success story from Game Jam.
We are Team 13, so I'm Jake.
Tim.
I'm Luke. We've never tried a game outside of this week where we've just been trying the engine, the framework that we're going to use. We've just been making little things. Me and Tim started a checkers game this week just to give it a go, something simple. Yeah, I've not written any code in about 2 or 3 months, so I figured this is as good an excuse as any to sit back at the computer and get back into that whole mindset of doing work.
I haven't touched my tablet. I haven't looked at anything for about a month and a half. So I'm going to be rusty, and I know that. But that I figured what a good way to start 2016 is just chuck myself in the deep end and sink or swim. So that's how it is, and that's how it goes. So.
For me, of course, it's usually we're not on this sort of deadline. It's much longer and much more planned out. So it's a bit of a challenge for me as well. The coding side's not worrying me so much as time management. I think will be the key here.
Right, my name's Stefan, composer doing audio and sound here.
Yeah, I'm Richard, and likewise, I'm also doing sound and music.
After the first time we came, we kind of knew how it all worked, so we thought rather than kind of jump off on a team and get started, we really just went around the room and asked who needed audio, who wasn't sorted for stuff. Once the concept of the game has been established, then and the aesthetic and the general theme, then you can get an idea of how the music might fit into that.
Each year, Global Game Jam gives participants a theme, and this year they were given the theme Ritual.
It's called Lullaby for the Machine. And how does that tie into Ritual? So we started with the ritual of rain dance. So people do a ritual rain dance to make it rain, because at some point somebody did they danced and it rained, and so they're oh, we need to dance and make it rain. That's how it works. So what we're doing is basically there's this old machine, an old piece of weather control technology, and you're inside the machine, and there are all these controls, and you press the controls, and depending on the pattern that you press, something happens, some weather event changes.
The moment we've just got the isometric dungeon crawler happening, but with a bit of a twist in that your player character avatars have
literally no way to defend themselves. They can run away and that's it, but they can work together to do a cooperative summoning ritual to produce a creature to fight for them, or if they, depending on the success of the ritual, eat them. So that's what we're working with at the moment. So
we're thinking of going, so definitely 3D. We're thinking some sort of totem pole with sections moving, forming the gameplay, possibly a marble dropping through the maze with so having each section with an entry, an exit, one entry, one exit, tying it back to the ritual theme, so things going on to allow you to know when you're going the right way or the wrong way, so fairly simple as a concept.
24 hours in, the games are starting to take shape, but fatigue is also starting to take its toll.
And we've basically split up the workload quite well amongst the team. We've got Fred's been working on the character controllers and our ritual summoning mechanic. Matt's been doing the tiles. Matt's been doing the tiles. The art style to the tiles, and Taylor's been working on the characters and NPCs. So we've thrown it all together. Rob's worked on UI today and design stuff. So yeah, with what we intended with this, we were looking for the Diversifier Infinite, which is procedural generation. So we've got that now. I did a heap of work on it yesterday and decided I didn't like it, threw away 4 hours of code last night and started again. We've come up with a much simpler just a tile system for procedural generation. I was working with marching squares and voxels, and I've decided that it'll be too complicated, so I've steered away from that.
We're not as far along as we'd like to be, but you never are at Game Jam because, you run into stuff that messes up, or, Unity crashes, or, all sorts of crazy things happen. But, I'm still pretty happy. Like, it's the weather change. Like, we just got weather change going in the game. In the virtual environment, it's super effective, Yeah, so we've simplified it a lot. Lisa basically said, look, what you guys are trying to build is too complicated for people to understand, so we need to make it easier to understand. And so we've changed how some of the interactions work. Essentially, before it was kind of you were going to create what each symbol meant. Now it's a puzzle game where you have to figure out what each symbol means.
I guess it's lucky that we're students, so I've pretty much all three of us have had 3 hours sleep each so far. And because we're young, strapping lads, we're able to do that, which is definitely useful. I guess it's probably more of a challenge than I expected, but it's because we haven't really done any game development before, a lot of stuff because we're all programmers essentially, a lot of stuff with rectangles and stuff that we're not really used to doing, but it's not super hard, just it'd be good to be used to it. But yeah, apart from that, it's just coming along pretty much how we're expecting.
I think the planning came together pretty quickly, actually. It was certainly, we're a couple of hours in and we're already starting to kind of put the pieces together in terms of all aspects. I think everyone started drawing and coding and making music and all the rest of it too. So.
We did have to reassess things a little bit last night as we were just okay, are all the ideas still flowing together? Yeah. And one or two weren't. So
our original plan was to go with something basic first, figure out what we wanted from that, and then rescope and replan from that point.
It was also very good that we had Lee as a appointed leader, because he kind of organized everything, but he also listened to people and he communicated, and that was really good.
The first 24 hours, we didn't do that much because in the process of making a game, the music kind of comes a little later once everything's been established. So we pretty much got ourselves into the groups, and then anyone who already had an idea, we listened to them and jotted down ideas and kind of messed about with a few things. But otherwise, it was a waiting game. Yeah, a waiting game, waiting till people actually had the idea, had the aesthetic down, and then once that was the case, we just cracked down and got it done.
But I guess on the other side of that as well, it gives us good practice at going through that kind of project management stuff in a very condensed time frame, so getting through concepts and drafting and mocking things up, even though we're not kind of very full on the first 24 hours or so, we start just on a lot of sketches and things like that and try and get ourselves ready so that when when the crunch does come and everyone's finishing up the games and they're starting to ask for all of the sounds, then it's not too much of a trial at the end to push through it all and get it all done.
We'll be back with the Jammers very soon to find out what they learned over the weekend. That was kind of at the 24-hour mark, so we checked in after 1 day's of progress, but we'll see how they went at the end, and we'll go into our next segment right now.
You're listening to Pixel Sift.
That's right. You're listening to Pixel Sift. We are a video game podcast out of Western Australia. We are joined on the phone by Mitch. Say hi, Mitch.
Hey, man.
Cool.
What's up?
That's great.
Listeners.
You're still there. The technology works. We've got the skills.
Yep.
We've got the skills to bring you the video game commentary that you are after. This week... Yes?
Using future technology and, early 90s technology.
That's right. A merging of technology. Just like the show, we take to the next gen, the past gen, and the current gen
Something
all together.
new, something old, something borrowed. I don't know how the thing goes.
That's right.
You're the married one.
That's right.
Anyway, this week, I'm just going to jump in. We're speaking failed game developments, as well as failed gaming things, I guess, consoles, etc. This is off the back of the Ant Simulator. It's been in the news the last half a week, I'd say. Developer of that, Eric Tereshinsky of ET-Ski, accused his business partners of basically squandering company money on liquor and strippers and all sorts of lewd things.
So he basically did what most people always suggest you shouldn't do.
Yeah.
And that is get on the internet.
Since when do our video game developers become rock stars and,
Yeah, well,
not behaving themselves?
But also this guy's gone out immediately and said something about it, and he said online, he's like, okay, these guys have done X, and he's put it in writing, which is always good.
Yeah. I mean, these guys have already hit back and said basically that, Tereshinsky is 100% full of shit. So, yeah, controversy surrounding all the happenings there, one side against each other. I feel like they wanted to go, if it's true, which it probably isn't based on what these guys have just blatantly come out and said that it wasn't.
So the game itself is done now. It's basically, that's it. It's not coming out anymore.
Yeah. I mean, it came out as there was a playable demo of sorts that they were aiming for. And it never kind of got delivered. There was a playable something at some point, but there was 4 minutes of gameplay.
So it's on the Unity engine. I'm having a look at it now.
Yeah. I mean,
I'm watching a video of the gameplay now, and I'm thinking, wow, this is. I kind of wish it went to production because I want to see how people would have received it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think a lot of people would have wished it kind of went to production, and it kind of came out of this there's a simulator sort of revival where everyone was kind of like, oh, we'll make Goat Simulator, we'll make Ant Simulator, let's make Cupcake Simulator. We've got I Am Bread, which is Bread Simulator.
I love a good sim.
Have we hit peaked simulator?
Maybe.
Have we reached the point where nobody needs a simulator?
We should make Podcast Setup Simulator.
Yeah, podcast.
I'm doing it.
Look,
that's mine.
Definitely thinking about it after the week at Global Game Jam. Yeah. I mean, there have been some other high-profile failures that we've kind of come across, and kind of exploded and made big sort of waves.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, one of the best ones, I guess, that sticks in my mind is Shenmue, which is a game that came out on Dreamcast, which I guess is also another failure as probably a console. Shenmue is pretty wicked. It was based on the Virtua Fighter engine and sort of like an 80s Japan-styled RPG. And it is kind of classic due to its cult-like status, but it was sadly kind of a bit of a flop because it was released on Dreamcast.
Though
at the time, it was the most expensive game ever made. So that was the biggest issue. Every Dreamcast, every owner of Dreamcast would have had to purchase 2 copies for it to have ever I don't even know if that's turned a profit. I think that's
broken even.
Yeah, broke even.
Wow. They're making a revival though. Shenmue 3 has just been kickstarted. So
like I said, cult.
It's come out
there was some controversy regarding that as well, right? Wasn't there? The Kickstarting campaign was then suddenly kickstarted by Sony itself, and then the people's money. We're not sure where that went, and we think it's might go into a marketing campaign, and that was a whole issue, right?
So what happened with the Shenmue Kickstarter is that basically they asked for an amount of money that you never would have been able to make the full game for. So I guess the argument that people make is that the money that they asked for on Kickstarter was not representative of the cost of making the game, and Sony was obviously kicking in a stack of money in the background that we're not sort of privy to, and that's kind of bringing it back alive. But people who are making small indie Kickstarters are probably saying, well, look, Shenmue only cost took in $10 million bucks, but it's not a $10 million game. It's the first one was a hugely expensive game, and this is going to be more expensive because it's a current gen sort of version of the same thing. So that's kind of where the controversy of that sort of lies, if you can call it a controversy. But
drama.
A drama. Yeah.
But of course, there's lots and lots of stories of other indie developer failures, because it's a huge risk of an enterprise, I guess, putting out any kind of
starting any new business, really.
Yeah. Are you familiar with the game Sunset? It was also a Kickstarter.
Tell us a little bit about that one.
So it was from developer Tale of Tales, who previously made some acclaimed art house style games. One of them, they had this AV project called The Path, which was quite acclaimed, like I said. Anyway, only 400 copies sold of it all up. It was a first-person shooter where you play as a housekeeper working for a dictator of a fictional country. And it seemed good and it looked great and everything. Like I said, it just didn't sell.
So did it actually get through its Kickstarter goal?
Yeah. The game made and then flopped.
Oh, right.
Yeah,
so the people who bought it were basically everyone who wanted to buy it. And then there wasn't any further audience past the point of the original Kickstarter campaign.
Something like that.
Yeah, well, I guess the risk of being a small developer and trying to take your thing to market and see how you go.
Well, on another note, something not Kickstarter related is the Lego Universe game that bombed heavily because I believe the introduction of Minecraft.
Yeah.
Well, interesting thing about this. Now you probably don't know this about me, but I am a bit of a Lego fan, so I do know quite a bit about the old Lego Universe game. And what happened with that?
Johnny's got to say something real quick. I got the Lego Millennium Falcon from some friends.
Really? There you go. Starting there and then build up your fleet. But anyway, so just like the Lego Millennium Falcon, the game itself was actually built sort of in-house by Lego's sort of game development company. And they had a lot more of a say in it, a lot more of a sort of financial stake in it than some of the other titles that are kind of coming out now, some of the Star Wars games or the Indiana Jones games and things like that. So, it was a big it was one of the things that almost pushed Lego to bankruptcy before they sort of had their sort of recent revival. But yeah, I mean, that was sort of touted to be a big, sort of game. And I guess you've done a bit of research in that into...
Yeah, the production company Net Devil went out of business like almost before the game even came out.
Really?
In 2011. Yeah, went out of business in 2011 and then, yeah. Oh, hang on. The game was...
Wow, we're dropping out there.
Losing Mitch a bit there. Oh, there he is. He's back. That's the wonders of analog technology there.
Reliability.
Signal attenuation.
I'll use this opportunity to jump back, and I've got one of my facts wrong there. It just didn't make sense when it came out of my mouth. The 400 copies of Sunset, it was 4,000. Because it was a Kickstarter, half of them were for the Kickstarter, supporters.
Backers.
Backers.
Yeah.
That just popped.
So is the game available at all anymore?
I'm not sure.
It's just been pulled off.
Sorry.
Yeah, I guess we'll
you can't get it. You can't get it digitally either.
Really? So, all gone.
Some other games, I guess, if we've got time there, Gianni.
Yeah, I think we've got it. Yep.
There's one going back from 2007 called Lair. That was from Factor 5 Games. They bought out a bunch of Star Wars titles and Rogue Squadron and Terracan and whatever. It was on PS3, and it's basically the 6-axis controllers issues that they had. The Lair kind of combat. It was supposed to be a dragon kind of air-ground combat game.
That's right. I do remember Lair.
And awesome visuals, but it flopped basically because it relied on this 6-axis controller, which just did not do the game justice or the gameplay any kind of justice.
Speaking of flops, the 6-axis controller, when it first came out on the PlayStation 3, no vibrate function.
It was such a piece of shit. I mean, that's why this game's reliance on it just flopped.
Yeah, I mean, it didn't have it didn't have vibration in it, and everyone's like, this is a bit weird, until they eventually worked out how to do it.
I couldn't believe it didn't have it. My friends would tell me, no, it doesn't have the function, and I was like, that's not true. That can't be true, but it was. Yeah.
But yeah, I guess they kind of put their eggs into one basket, and that's the inherent risk with making a bit of a gamble like this. There's going to be, I guess, plenty more examples that we're going to see along the road. Plenty more sort of games that are going to kind of come out, and things that may not reach the level there. Maybe we'll see more of these sort of as sort of indie game developers have to do so much more promotion of their own games. We might see more of this sort of public explosion as the whole thing kind of falls apart, because it's just like any business. And, lots of businesses fail, and people kind of forget that there's money in the game. There's sort of personal experience, and
they can fail for any kind of reason. That Sunset game had a good amount of support. Lair looked like it was going really well. There was a game called Beyond Two Souls, which featured some acting work from Ellen Page and Willem Dafoe.
Yep.
Like, you could think that was going to be a movie, and a successful movie at that, but it kind of flopped as well.
At any level,
it was merited for its artistry and music and whatever. But as far as the game went, the plot was pretty silly, and the characters didn't have much depth, and the narrative structure was a bit questionable.
Sometimes a critical acclaim is not enough to pay the bills.
Not enough. A shiny cover is not always beholding of a.
And someone's got to pay for Willem Dafoe and Ellen Page.
That's
exactly. Right. Yeah.
The money's got to go somewhere.
There's plenty more to explore in this. I think we'll definitely come back to this in future episodes. Right now, though, let's go to our second part of our interview with the people at Let's Make Games. We had a chat to them at the end of their sort of thing. A lot of people were very tired and very sort of hard working throughout the rest of the 48 hours that they got there. So
they did. They started to look a bit. They weren't making eye contact, and
they weren't as pleased.
There was a bit of a glaze.
You did see the bags under their eyes a bit.
That's right.
They did well.
So now we're going to find out sort of the things that they learnt and some of the challenges that they experienced throughout the time.
Shattered, tired. Yeah, it's pretty shattered. Good, but we got finished, so that's good. We got uploaded. We got everything working. So from that side of it's excellent. He did well. Young child did well.
Very young Padawan. It was good. Pretty exhausted. Considering I got off a plane less than a week ago today, and I had to get back into the swing of things pretty quickly. It was really good. I look at things and I'm like, okay, I could have done that better, but I'm like, considering the time frame that I had to get back into things, and I finished classes like a month and a half ago and haven't touched anything, I was like, yeah, look, I basically was a blank canvas and I picked it up pretty well. So I'm happy with it. There's always going to be things you like and wanted to put in, but I think for the most part we've got a functional game. It's pretty fun. A couple little bugs I think that could have been polished a little bit better, but all in all, I think we're happy. I'm pretty happy with what we've got. So I definitely think next time we'd do this more people for sure. Not such a heavy burden on just the two of us. So, definitely looking forward to do another one. That's for sure. So, but it's a good start to 2016. That's for sure. Looking around the room and seeing different artists and different programming, I think that was the big thing. I was like, oh man, if I was as good as that, so that sort of inspired the fire, and I just want to go with that and see where that takes me, and if that brings me back to the game, then I'll do it and polish it real good then, I think.
So it was just coming to terms with what I could and couldn't do with the system, and then actually making it work. One of the problems was we wanted to set a stat when you clicked on something, but we didn't know how to do that, so we had to look it up online, and it was just ridiculous. Ugh. It's disgusting. But yeah, that was the main challenge, was just that coding aspect. I want to take what I've learned from today and then apply it somewhere else maybe. So maybe make a better Twine game instead of going all ambitious with it. But I might work on it some more. I'm not sure.
But I learned a lot about file management near the end of the whole flow, and on top of that, just the whole having to record and upload the YouTube video for the Game Jam site. It was an interesting process, having not done any of that before. Apart from that, managing a team and realizing I probably should set a few things up for when everyone else is very, very much occupied.
Because our process improved over time, eventually you set up a thing where you went through, you printed out all the feedback, and then you set tasks for different people, and we went through and marked them down when we'd done them, and that got sorted like that, and that worked really well.
Yeah, I was playtesting and just creating documentation through the whole process, and eventually I ran out of documentation to create because everyone else was on track, and I'd already given them all the feedback they needed. But that's it.
So are you happy with the final result?
Yeah, it's very happy. I broke my arm almost, and it was very nice having an organized leader and a producer to set everyone to do things, and everyone communicated, everyone gave everyone else feedback, and that was great. Good team.
It was interesting. At the end of the first night, we realized that we weren't going entirely for our initial idea. We'd hit a parallel to what we were going, so got everyone together and tried to organise what direction we wanted to go to.
Well, I guess this time around, we had kind of an extra layer of management between the two of us and collaboration. So because obviously we're working on all of the games concurrently, we're not really doing one than the other. We always just had to kind of check back in with each other and keep a schedule of what we were doing, which is something we haven't really done before. Even though we've collaborated together on other stuff, it's just been more of a linear kind of thing. So yeah, for me that was really kind of the big challenge with this one.
Well, no, it was all actually really good. Like it was a great experience compared to the last one we had, which was still a really good experience in the first place. So I think it was, for me, it's probably just having an excuse to use certain libraries I haven't used in a long time before, and learning or relearning certain audio aspects.
Thank you very much to everyone we spoke to over the weekend. We hope you got a very, much needed rest after 48 hours of
thanks to everyone.
Long, hard and long working. We'll be posting a link to the games pages for both Perth sites on our website where you can download and play some of the games that were created. There are a variety of different games, many different interpretations of the theme Ritual, so you can check those out. Play Out Perth will also be hosting sort of an expo night in the coming weeks where you can play some of these games with the devs in person, and we'll post details of that event as well. Guys, you were at the ECU presentation at the end of the 48 hours. What were some of the cool things that you saw?
Yeah,
do you want to go Mitch?
Cheers, Scott. Yeah, my favorite thing was Breakout. It's the Escape the Maze game, and there was a pretty cool twist that they showed us, which I'm not going to spoil here, but definitely worth checking out. It was also one of the cleanest games that I think ended up at the end of. They did the best they could with the 48 hours that they had.
Yeah, I agreed. I think it was the most kind of impressive at the end because there was a kind of, a secret, I guess. And it was almost like a couple of games rolled into one. And just the thought, I guess, it was really creative. And the team Rabbitfish, which was 4 of them, they didn't know each other beforehand. They kind of just came together and made something really cool. And it really, really impressed people as well, which is great because,
We did have a bit of a chat to them sort of on the Saturday at the 24-hour mark, and we were sort of talking to them, and yes, they sort of all met at the time there, and but yeah, they were a bit coy about their secret feature. So all I can say that if you do have a chance to play that one, just make sure you properly explore the environment, and sometimes when you think you might have finished, you may not have finished. So just keep trying and see what you can find.
Yeah, there was a bunch of cool games. The guys from Golem's Wake, which was one of the Unity, I guess, AoE style RTS, I guess.
Yeah, it was
games.
a resource sort of management, but also you had a bunch of sort of very real-time strategies.
Very cool.
Way to describe it.
Ritual Hero, which was one of the was the only Twine game there, and it was a team of 2. Well, 1, 2, yeah.
And Twine's kind of like a sort of a choose your adventure story game style game.
And I think he clocked up over 6,000 words on it. So it was pretty impressive by the end of it. I mean, they were all really good. I don't want to single anyone out, but they were all kind of cool.
And there's also a whole bunch of games at the Murdoch site as well, and they're all available to download. There are also lots of other games you can get on the website for the Global Game Jam. We'll put a link up to that, and you can check out some of the 36,000 games that were created. Well, 36,000 people, 6,300 games were created. So quite a few games that were created across the world, with lots of different interpretations of the theme of Ritual. That's pretty much all we've got time for today. We've reached the end of our episode. We've reached this week's Ritual. It has reached its completion. We'll be back again next week with another episode of Pixel Sift. If you want to check us out, we have a website. You can go to www.pixelsift.com.au. Scott, on social media, where are people going to find us?
They can find us at facebook.com/pixelsift, twitter.com/pixelsift, and twitch.tv/pixelsift.
YouTube as well. You can jump onto YouTube and find us there. And Mitch, if people are listening to other episodes, where are they going to head to?
Yeah, you can go to our not so brand new but still shiny website, pixelsift.com.au, and you can also go to iTunes, Pocket Cast, or the RSS link on our page.
And while you're on iTunes, if you could give us a rating and a review, that would be really appreciate that.
It'd be aces.
We'd also like to hear a bit of your feedback as well. If you'd like to see a particular topic that you thought might be interested in, something you'd like us to sort of investigate or talk about, we'd love to hear that. You can do that. Just do a comment on our page, or you can also find us on social media and send us a message there as well.
If you want to know if Johnny actually wrote that Ritual comment earlier, I want to know that too.
That's right. We will see you guys again this time next week, which is whatever time you listen to this, because it's a podcast. And thanks for joining me, guys. We'll see you again next time.
Thank you very much.
Gotcha.